Hey everyone, welcome to the weirdest news in history with me, your host, Ben Chasteen. And tonight I'll be talking about number 5. This is about an army of 20,000 soldiers determined to rescue their queen inside a traveling metal fortress. Sounds pretty cool, right? And number 4, Florida man arrested for, well, doing the most Florida man thing any Florida man would ever do, which involves a dead possum. And number 3, Tracy, a single mother of 5, was convinced a ghost was living in her attic after hearing banging noises along with nails falling out of the ceiling. Pretty scary, right? What was really there was almost just as shocking. And number 2, could almost turn this next story into the next Indiana Jones movie. It might even be better than the more recent ones. After Harrison Ford makes a daring rescue of a 13-year-old boy. And number 1, next we got a story that sounds like it's ripped from an Adam Sandler movie, except it actually happened. The wedding sting that turned into a major operation. So stay tuned to hear the weirdest news in history with me, Ben Chasteen. All right, and also with me is my brother Jordan, who's doing the show with me now. Jordan, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing really well. So, yeah, we got some funny ones for everybody for today. Number 5, an army of 20,000 soldiers determined to rescue their queen inside a metal fortress. Bees. So, rather, an army of 20,000 bees followed this SUV for nearly 2 days to get to their queen, who happened to be trapped inside the vehicle. Now, 60-year-old Carol Howarth owned the car and had no idea that the queen bee was trapped inside when she visited a nature reserve. And Jordan, is that a video? Do you want to play a part of that? Or is that just like a photo? Oh, yeah, we can play a little bit if you want. Yeah, look at that. You can just turn the volume down. That's fine. Because, yeah, she had no idea that this was happening. You know, she's driving her car. And then, little did she know that there's literally like almost 20,000 bees that were following her car. Moses, a guy who was a national park ranger, just happened to be driving by when he saw all these bees. He was worried that someone might do something, what he said, stupid, meaning like, spray him with something or kill all the bees or something. He was thinking that bees are already dying from habitat loss and terrible farming and practices and use of pesticides and all these things. So last thing he wanted was, some water or something on it. But not to mention that bees dying from like GMO stuff like Monsanto is putting out. But remember the colony collapse disorder? Yeah, I think that was all engineered. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. But anyway, Moses then called beekeepers to help out. And, they slowly and carefully scooped the bees into boxes. However, several of them were stung in the process. Probably because they're not trying to get the honey, they're like, we're trying to get our queen. And I don't think they understood at first what was going on, because the next morning the bees were back. So once again, the beekeepers came out, and that's when they realized, like, oh, the queen bee was trapped. But Moses says members of the colonies often follow their queen bee if she moves hives. So if the queen bee decides to move a hive, the whole colony will follow. And so anyway, they don't really know exactly if they got the queen bee out, or, because there's so many bees, so many things are going on. I just assume you probably opened the window and the queen bee escaped. But anyway, either way, they were either going to transport them to a new colony which had a queen, or find the queen. But it's pretty much impossible to find the queen at that point. So anyway, either way, they're going to have a good home in the end of the day. So he speculates the shiny, warm Mitsubishi might have seemed a good option for a new home. So maybe not. I don't know. But I don't think Carol would want to have bees living in her Mitsubishi. Man, it's such a hard word to say. All right. Such a crazy story.
I've seen something like that in person.
Really?
Or like, yeah, or bees were just swarming around a car. It's probably what happened. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think about that either. I mean, I've seen situations where bees are swarming over something, or inside a house or something like that. So it's quite possible that maybe it did have to do with the queen. I mean, they and like, the bumblebees, like, once they sting you, they're pretty much dead. So that's why they don't.
That's the honeybee.
The honeybee. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Bumblebee is the big fat fuzzy one.
I meant the honeybees, because they're the ones that produce the honey. So those are the ones that were on the on the car there, the honeybees. So yeah, so they don't really typically want to sting you unless they feel threatened, or the queen feels threatened. So kind of crazy when you really think about it. All right, let's move on to our Florida Man number 4 story here. If there's a photo of this, I don't think we want to show it. Florida man arrested for being extremely Florida man for pooping on an opossum during rush hour traffic. Yeah. Weird. Every once in a while you hear or see a headline that is so insane that it has to be made up or satire. This is one of those cases. I was like, there's no way this could be a real headline. Like, I'm seeing people post on Facebook all kinds of weird things. There's this one where it's this funny mugshot of this guy, and he's like on everything. And I'm like, dude, these are all fake, because they're using the same mugshot dude, because he just looks so ridiculous, And I think the original story isn't as ridiculous. So I thought this was one of those fake ones. Nope. It's a real story. The report said that a man was observed defecating on a deceased possum with his pants lowered and his anal region exposed. This is according to the official police reports. Police actually witnessed this man doing this. That's the insane part. 40-year-old man Robert Wilcox taking a dump on the dead possum. The report stated that he did this during rush hour traffic and in plain sight for everyone to see. And gosh, what a Florida man photo right there. Ugh. Man, that guy is weird. I'm clearly probably on meth.
Or bath salts.
Yeah, bath salts. Or all of the above. Whatever it is. After being detained and read his rights, Wilcox then denied ever pooping on the dead possum. He told the cop that he doesn't see straight. The officer was forced to do some real investigative work to be sure that his vision was correct, and he actually went over and observed the dead creature for himself. The report states, quote, physical evidence was viewed at the scene, which corroborates the allegations alleged And say that 4 times fast. Okay, with corroborates the allegations alleged. It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it, the police said. Will Cox was charged with a misdemeanor for indecent exposure and booked into the local county jail on a $150 bond. Doesn't seem like much, although his crime wasn't really that much either. But man, what is up with these Florida man stories? What did you say about these Florida man stories? That they were all open. You were telling me about them, I think, weren't you?
Were they all? What do you mean?
Like why the Florida man stories are so insane. It's something with the
Um,
court system where
yeah, it's part of it is the rehab system down there.
yeah, that too.
It's like it's so rigged and so like messed up that people go down there for like rehab, but it's mainly all the rehab centers, like a lot of them are scams. And then these people have nowhere to go, and then they're like all over Florida. And that's why people think some of this crazy stuff happens down there.
Well, another aspect is every booking thing is open in Florida, so that's why and people specifically look for the crazy stuff to report about, right? Whereas everything else, you have to kind of like call in to be like, oh, what was your records today? Like it's like the Florida police actually upload these things of like anyone can look at, and that's why it's kind of crazy. But some of these stories, and we could just have like a true or false show, just a Florida man, like true or false. Yeah.
We should do that.
Some of them are like, how would in fact, I think I saw this somewhere, and that's how I found it. It was like, is this story true or false? And I'm like, dude, this has to be a false story. It's like, no, my gosh, it's real. That's crazy.
Also, with Florida being warmer down there, it's
True.
easier for people to live on the streets, unlike in the northern regions where it's cold all the time, like a lot
That
of
is true.
places. So
Yeah.
people kind of flock down there too.
Good point. Good point. All right, let's move on to number 3 here. Woman discovers a shocking discovery in her attic. So Tracy, a single mother of 5, was convinced that a ghost, or maybe an animal, she thought, lived in her attic after hearing banging noises along with nails falling out of the ceiling. Pretty scary, right? So finally, she sent her older sons and nephew to see if it was a poltergeist or some animal, to see where the sounds were coming from and the weird phenomena. She said, then all the nails just popped out of the ceiling over my bed, like bing, bing, bing. I thought there was some poltergeist stuff going on, she said. What they found might have been even more shocking. Why don't we play this a little bit?
A few minutes later, that's when the nails started popping out of the ceiling one by one. It was just like bing, 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 bing.
Thinking it was an animal, she called her older sons and
Shut
nephew
up,
to go check it
poltergeist.
out.
My nephew was like, well, if it's something up there, then it's coming down.
But what they found up those stairs still gives everyone in the house the chills.
And that's when they found him, the guy, sleep inside of my heating unit. He had packed coats and stuff in the heating unit.
The man ran down the stairs and out of the house as she was calling the police.
Then they found several cups of feces
Yeah.
and urine where he had been using the bathroom.
The unwelcome attic resident is not a stranger.
And this is some guy, that I knew from the past that had came and helped remodel my house and everything.
But perhaps most unsettling, there is no outside entrance
Okay,
to the
can you
attic.
pause it?
He had to come through the door.
It's interesting. This report, it doesn't go as in detail as what I was really reading, and maybe because at the first she might have not wanted to admit who the guy was, but it was actually her ex-boyfriend from 12 years ago who was living in her attic, and she said prior to that she saw him about a year before that, and that was the last time she saw him, where he actually came over and helped out, did some like random work on the house, like just odds and end jobs around the house. And then she said that's the last time she ever heard from him, and they got into a big argument because I guess she said she told the Charlotte Observer that his addiction to drugs and offenses for robbery, including stealing her own truck, meant that she was not interested in having a relationship with him anymore and broke up with him over 12 years ago. She said she heard a thump coming from the ceiling, and then that's when, finally she was like, go check on this. But seriously, according to other reports, like, she actually thought it was a ghost. Maybe it really was a ghost. So it's funny they left that out in this news report. But yeah, police are still unsure how he had been sneaking into her house, though, because the only way up through the attic was through one of the bedroom doors. So, either he was like waiting until they were all leaving the house and then he would sneak up, or they were sleeping, but it didn't look like, it looked like he would only leave when they would leave. So, yeah, they found some crazy, weird things. By the time police arrived, he was already gone. And they then said that they were afraid to even fall asleep now because he's still out there, and they didn't know what he would be capable of doing. So this story was from 2012. And up until this point, he was still on the run. I was looking for an update to see if they actually captured the guy or anything else, but I couldn't really find a whole lot of updates after this. But I did find other stories where this did happen for other people too. So I think Rob and I reported on our weirdest news in history. But yeah, weird stuff. Yeah, there was another person, I forget where, maybe in Australia or something, where some random dude was living in this person's attic for like months, I think. Like, how do you even do that? That's just crazy. Weird stuff. But good find on the video, Jordan.
Yeah, I think I remember that one where the guy was living in. I think you're right. It might have been Australia, but yeah, he was like sneaking down at like night and like stealing food or like leaving and then coming back, and then like so no one knew who was up there. Like,
yeah, it was either in Australia or the UK or something like that. I can't remember. Maybe it was actually, now that I think about it, I think it was the UK. But yeah, he was. You're right. Rob and I were talking about that in one of our shows, and I'm like, this is so freaking weird. And he was up there for like a long time. I remember that. Could be months or even like, it was some shocking number. I'm like, how in the world is this guy up there that long? So crazy. All right, number 2 is a little bit more uplifting here. So at first I thought, I had to make sure that this wasn't some weird promotion for a movie. This is 100% real. A Boy Scout was rescued by none other than Indiana Jones himself, Harrison Ford. True story. So in 2001, Cody Clausen was only 13 years old at the time and hiking in Yellowstone. I mean, that's some feat for only 13 years old. He suddenly realized he was completely lost. For 18 hours, he was wandering alone, lost, missing, and all he had was shorts, sandals, and a t-shirt, and it began to rain. Not just rain, sleet rain. So it was really cold. He was cold, tired, or hungry, so he just decided to hunker down at this point. And actually, I think there's some photos in here, Jordan, if you want to kind of scroll through that article, and I think there's some at the bottom there. So he fell asleep and woke up to a sound of a helicopter, and using that's actually, that's the kid behind Harrison Ford right there. So he fell asleep and woke up to a sound of helicopter, and using a skill he learned in Boy Scouts, he took out his belt buckle and used it to shine light, reflecting the sunlight on the belt buckle to the pilot flying the helicopter, and they spotted him because of it. And it turned out it was Harrison Ford who was flying the helicopter. Cody said, I started looking for an open place where I could signal them. Ford then landed his helicopter before flying Cody to a search and rescue headquarters. Cody said he immediately recognized the actor from his voice as soon as he said hello. He said, the way he said hello reminded me so much of his role of Han Solo in Star Wars. Then I was like, oh my God, Han Solo has just rescued me. How cool is that? Is that his parents? Is that him?
That's him now. He's 26 now,
Oh,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
married, and he says he hails the Star Wars actor as a real life star.
Yeah, he was 13 in 2001. So yeah, he would be like 30 something years old now, right? Okay. Cody explained that his experience with Ford gave him a different perspective on celebrities. What he did give me he said what it gave me was a different perspective on stars. They sometimes get portrayed as being snobby people, but really there are good, generous people out there. And to me, Harrison Ford is one of those good people who we're lucky to have as an influence on our lives. It's pretty cool. I mean, Harrison Ford is known to like love flying. You remember recently, he actually crashed his little he had a 4-seater plane, and something happened and I can't remember, and he ended up crashing it and survived. So yeah, there it is right there. Yeah, he loves flying and planes and all kinds of stuff, and something happened and it crashed, and then he just like walked out like it was nothing. I think he hurt his neck, and I think they did take him to the hospital, but the media had a field day, and it was like, oh my gosh, he really is like Indiana Jones and Han Solo. So everyone said everyone asked the kid at the time, when he was like 13 years old, if he got an autograph. He's like, no, but I got a hug and a handshake, and that's even better. So it's a pretty cool story. I mean, that would be a pretty interesting. I mean, he did get a photograph with Harrison Ford, and that's kind of cool. So, anyway, I mean, at the time, I'm sure he wasn't thinking like, "Hey, let me get your autograph." He was probably just thankful to be alive,
He's probably more shocked that it was like Harrison Ford of all people.
Yeah, and that reflecting light on his belt buckle like actually worked. I mean, that's a genius idea. So, proof that Boy Scouts really can pay off sometimes. All right, let's move on to our number one story here. All right, next we have a story that literally sounds like it's ripped straight out of an Adam Sandler movie or some Ocean 11 flick or something like that, except it actually happened. So, 1990, Owasso, Michigan cops set up 86 drug dealers all at once in the funniest way possible. This is a great headline. So this happened in a small Michigan town called Owasso, about 30 miles north of Lansing. A guy named Daniel Brown is about to get married to Debbie Leno, the daughter of Fast Eddie Leno, a notorious drug dealer in the local county. Guests are mingling. Debbie is in her dress and the cake's ready to be cut, but there's a big, massive twist. Daniel and Debbie aren't getting married. In fact, it isn't even their real names. And Fast Eddie Leno doesn't even exist. They're all fake names and a fake wedding with a fake cake, fake family attending, and even a fake band. They literally had a band play that was fake. And everything looks real. All the props are real except for the cake. The cake was made of cardboard, and they put icing over cardboard because they didn't want to pay that much money. She got her dress actually at a thrift store. And the wedding guests were real, however, and little did they know that the ceremony was a finale of a 5-month undercover sting operation for the local county sheriff department. The bride, Debbie, was actually Flint police officer Deborah Williams, and the groom was Lacey Brown. And so they got married, and just as the band, which the band SPOC, which is cops spelled backwards, finished their song, I Fought the Law and the Law Won, the bride lifted up her white gown, and instead of a lace, there was a leg holster with a .38 caliber handgun. She pulled it out and told everyone they were under arrest. Another guest stood up and asked police officers in the room to raise their hands, and the rest, he said, were all under arrest. So Lacey Brown and Deborah Williams had been posing as a drug-frazzled couple tasked with gathering evidence on every dealer in the area. This happened in like 1990, and this was a huge, huge deal. This has never been done before. And so there's actually like some, I'm going to get into this, some movie company purchased the rights to this and everything. I mean, it is insane. Like, there is that her holding her gun?
That's her. Yeah, that's her holding the gun. That's her during the sting operation.
That is
That's
hilarious.
actually from the wedding.
Yeah, that's actually from the wedding. Yeah, because they had a photographer. They had, this. Oh my God, I can't even imagine what this must have been like. In the several months of being undercover, Williams and Brown gathered data on more than 40 subjects and had to think of clever ways to apprehend them all. That's them undercover right there. By luring, or at least the guys, I think, and so they were like, what if we brought everybody into one room? So they were like brainstorming and were like, hey, we could do like a mass arrest. And so they came up with this idea of having a fake wedding. And they knew if they arrested the subjects one by one, they would all like disperse and move out of the area and everything. So they had to do it all at once. And there was too many of them that they couldn't, and they didn't have enough people on the force to do this. Plus, they might get a tip off. So during the 24 hours after the wedding, police knocked down the doors of those subjects who were invited to the wedding but didn't show up. It's kind of funny. So the Owasso wedding story was so cinematic that Hollywood took notice. In 2015, Paramount Pictures in the Atlantic optioned an article about the wedding sting for a potential movie. So, well, according to Deadline, it's now kind of like moving forward, I guess. And Anne Hathaway and Dave Bautista is going to star in it. Although I still don't know what the heck happened to Dave Bautista. I don't know. To me, that's a little weird, but it is what it is.
Well, apparently, he was killing himself to maintain
Yeah.
that physique.
I mean, it's just like, I mean, it almost seems like a completely different person, different personality, different everything, but I understand. I mean, in some aspects, especially doing, what's the,
Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah, especially after that, where he could be typecast as kind of like this, he's kind of dumb. He plays this, big dumb brute kind of on the show. So I can understand it's like, hey, I don't want to be typecast or known as this guy,
Yeah, and I think like I think the other thing too is like you're saying with typecasting, it's like I'm sure he probably wanted to get roles he couldn't get
That's true.
with
Yeah.
being that size.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, you're always just gonna play the heavy or the big dumb guy, but like he really wanted to. I really think he's one of the few like wrestling to actors who really broke into acting. Like The Rock is just a name.
Yeah, I mean, the Rock plays the Rock in every single movie you see the Rock in. He's just the Rock, and it's like, it's just so annoying, right? You're right. I mean, I'm trying to think of other wrestlers that kind of broke through. There's a few of them, but they all have a very stereotypical, like, oh, let's play the action hero kind of guy,
Yeah,
right?
even John Cena. I mean, he's doing well
Yeah,
with Peacemaker, but
that's great.
he's not like, and he's taking on more comedic roles. But he's not exactly playing himself, but he's also not playing. It's not like he's doing some groundbreaking like acting work either.
Yeah, and I don't remember wherein I saw this movie, and I don't even think I saw the whole thing, but I just remember seeing Dave Batista in some cabin, and it was some serious movie or something, and it started out with him, and I was like, wow, he's actually like in this like drama. Oh yeah, you were talking about it. It was like the M. Night Shyamalan knock. What'd you say? What were you saying it
It's
was?
called Knock at the Cabin.
Okay. Yeah. I don't even, I think I only saw the beginning, honestly, but I was impressed by Dave's performance on this, but I didn't really see a whole lot of it.
I mean,
Of the movie.
they even brought him. They actually filmed more for the Blade Runner sequel. because of his
Mhm.
acting. He did such a good job in it. They actually brought him back and they filmed some stuff just for like YouTube for his character that he was in that movie.
Interesting.
So I
Well,
think he's just trying to like really dive into the whole acting thing above everybody else, just kind of playing dumb action star.
yeah, I mean, you might be right about that. Hopefully you are. So hopefully it wasn't for like some other weird thing or something, but it was a very big culture shock for me though. I'm like, that's not Dave Bautista. What the heck? So I'm like, whoa, how do you even lose that much muscle mass? I guess when you just don't work out as much and probably eat all your protein drinks and everything else. And he's getting older too. So that's
Yeah,
just
that's him in Blade Runner. Like that was the character he played in Blade
I
Runner. Was just
forgot
like
that
this
he was in
older, like beat up
yeah,
guy.
I forgot he was in Blade Runner too. So that's crazy. Anyway, I don't know. So anyway, I mean, this would be a great story. I mean, honestly, I think that they could do a pretty good job of this. I mean, it's almost better than in real life than some of the scripts out there right now. So I just can't even get over. They even had a fake band that played. Uh, oh my gosh, that's so hilarious. But yeah, this is the band right there. You know what? That must have been the band that was part of that van. The van. I thought that was the undercover people, but I think it was the undercover band. I guess you could say. I'm surprised they didn't call themselves like undercover or something. Just the band name. But I guess they were like, let's just come up with something generic. So that is SPO, like Spock.
Yeah, they probably didn't want like to make it. They probably wanted to make it as authentic as possible, so people weren't going to get like thrown off by it.
Yeah, no, I guess they actually played. The band could actually play, but yeah, calling themselves Spock, SPOC, that's just hilarious. Cops backwards. I mean, seriously, I would enjoy watching a movie for this. During the anniversary of this, I think the 2020 well, it's now the 25th anniversary, which is why I saw this kind of trending again. And they're interviewing a retired guy on the force in Michigan, and he said he didn't think there was anybody left in the police force that were a part of the sting. But I mean, and clearly there's a lot of people alive from it. So I mean, I think almost everybody's alive from it. But they were all just saying like how insane it was, and it actually inspired other counties in different parts of the country to do similar things. So there was another wedding, I think, sting that happened a few years later or something similar, but this was the big one that took place. So such a funny story. I mean, seriously, if they made a movie about this, I probably would want to go see it if it was done well. So that's is he the sheriff?
He's one of the more volunteer guys who helped
Okay.
with it. But yeah, it says McCarthy Picture traveled from Port Huron to take part of the. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word. Drug
Yeah.
bust.
So he's one of the ones that were that I think they interviewed years and years later, because he was a part of it and stuff. But seriously, is one hilarious story. So anyway, hope you guys liked this episode of Weirder News or Weirdest News in History. Jordan, thanks for being here with me. Do you have any final comments with any of this stuff?
No, I think I would love to see a movie on this wedding bust, though. I think it'd be hilarious, especially if you did it in the style of like true mafia films. I think it'd be hilarious.
I totally agree with that. I think that'd be really funny. So, well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching. And remember, let me know in the comments which one you like the best. And until next time, I'll see you guys out on the edge. Stay weird.